Hey there friends, how's it going today? Hope that you're doing so well. It's super rainy here. It's not so fun. It's so dark all the time, and our poor chickens in the backyard are just like huddled under their coop trying to stay dry. At any rate, I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're staying warm and dry and content wherever you happen to be, cozying up your space in a way that makes the most sense for you. Today, I am going to talk about something that has been on the blog last week. It was on the podcast last week, and that is BDNF. And I'm talking about it here because I think it's so cool. And it's one of these things, I think we tend to have this thought that like, oh, I don't really have any control over what goes on in my body, or, oh, like they say food is medicine, but whatever, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. And BDNF is a chemical in the brain. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's found in the brain. It's also found in the blood and different tissues throughout the body. But it's this chemical that is really receptive to our lifestyle habits, and it changes in response to our lifestyle habits. And so I just want to take a few minutes and share a little bit of information with you here. So BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is super important. Why? Because it plays a role in learning, retaining information, forming new neural synapses. If you remember last week, my video on growth mindset, and if you don't remember because you didn't see it, go watch it. It was a good one. It was great. You're going to love it. But so growth mindset, BDNF plays a role in this because it's this ability to learn and get new skills and know how to do things in new ways and solve problems creatively. BDNF also plays a role in just supporting the day-to-day activities of our neurons. So our neurons are cells. They have to do all their regular cellular things in addition to transmitting the incredible amount of information that they transmit for us on a day-to-day basis. And so BDNF really supports these cells and keeps them healthy and running and functioning so that we can stay sharp, we can stay with it, we can stay focused, we can stay creative, we can keep learning, all these things. And so what does that mean? There are a number of diseases and conditions that are associated with BDNF, and these include things like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, MS, Parkinson's disease, I'm trying to think what else, and also diabetes. Didn't see that one coming, did you? And so it's what they found is that in all these diseases or conditions, BDNF levels are altered. They're not the same as they are in folks who don't have symptoms of these conditions. And so, for example, depression, they find lower levels of BDNF throughout the brain and also in the blood. And cool thing, medications, antidepressant medications, raise BDNF levels. How cool is that? Now, if you're someone who's just like, I just want to be healthy, I just want my cognitive function to stay on point, I just want to be able to be sharp at work, to do the job that I need to do in the best way possible, it's fine. You can still use your BDNF to your advantage and really optimize your levels and make the best out of it. So one thing that is recommended, just as a side note, I came to this because I had somebody ask me once, well, why is exercise good for depression? And I had to look it up, and this is why, because BDNF. And so whether or not you have depression or any of those conditions that I listed, mental health or no, exercise is going to help. And via BDNF is one of these ways. And so what happens is that when you exercise, those levels go up in your brain, and your brain can better take care of itself. As another, I don't know if this is a side note, but I was also looking into herbs and supplements that support BDNF function, and there are many of them. And it's interesting because exercise and most of the herbs that I found that are being researched for supporting BDNF levels, they all support circulation. So it's really interesting to me that these two things cross over. And I don't know what's going on with that relationship there, but it is interesting because like ginkgo is mentioned, turmeric is mentioned, and both of these things really target microcirculation, which is just the really smallest blood vessels in your body. So super cool, super interesting. I'm getting close because I can't see my timer there. At any rate, So what else can you do about BDNF? Exercise, like I said, some of those supplements, and if you want more information about those, you can certainly head on over to the blog or go listen to the podcast, both of which you can find on the website that is in my bio. But also, here's what's super interesting. Stress levels. Stress levels matter. Can you believe it? I know you didn't want to hear it. It's like everything comes back to stress levels, but here's what's cool. Regardless of like objectively what your stress levels are, which you could measure, I don't know how, maybe a questionnaire or something, the way you perceive your stress levels has an impact on your body's ability to take care of itself. So what does that mean? So that means if you are thinking about your day and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't handle this is so stressful right now, like why don't I have any help? And going down that path of just it's all too much, and I don't have the resources I need to take care of this, that's high stress. That will decrease your BDNF levels, and that will decrease your cognitive function over time. And I'm talking strictly about chronic stress. There's a dose relationship when it comes to stress. Chronicity matters, but for chronic stress, this is what happens, right? So you think that you have too much to do and you don't have the resources with which to do it. This can be financial, time, human resources, whatever it might be. And if you can flip that story, if you can think about things in a new way, all that reverses itself, because what happens is that you lower your stress, you manage that stress, you reframe it, and it's not so stressful anymore. And so now your BDNF levels come back up, and now you can think again, and now you're firing on all cylinders again, and so quality of life improves. And so how do you do this? Well, reframing matters. Reframing is everything. And so there are ways that you can be really intentional about this. So here are some examples, and you can think of your own, whatever's going on in your life. Think through, like, how can I reframe the situation that usually stresses me out? How can I make a story about it so it's not quite so stressful? So, all right, so I'm just gonna say a few. One is, am I feeling overwhelmed, or is my life really full? I have a lot going on. My life is full of so much richness. Another example is, like if you walk into your house and it's super dirty and like there's just chaotic and junk everywhere, like, oh, this is such a mess, I don't have the time to clean it up. Ugh. Or, oh my gosh, there is so much activity here, there's so much going on here, there's so much richness and life in my house, that's amazing. It's a very different way to approach that situation. A third one is traffic, right? So if you're someone who commutes, if you drive on your commute, if you drive yourself, is your commute a time suck? Is it a waste of your day? Is it time that you should be doing something else? Is it time that you wish you didn't have to spend? Or is it like, oh, hey, I get to do some self-reflection. I get to practice some self-compassion. I get to listen to a book. Like, this is time I get to decide what to do with. I can practice being mindful on my drive. I can practice loving compassion to the people around me in the cars. This is a really lovely time for me to practice my gratitude. So there are all kinds of options. Another one, if you drive with kids, if you have to take your kids to school, like, oh, this is a time I get to hang out with my kids. How great is that? So these are all some examples of ways that you can reframe, and think about your own. If you pull out your journal, or even on your drive, maybe, if you have some examples of places in your life where the stress is kind of too much, if you can sit down and think like, okay, well, how can I reframe this? What are 5 other ways that I can reframe this? And just make up some stories, make up some wild stories, and see which ones feel good. And that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point, is to make stories around us that feel better, because we're all making up stories all the time. So why not make some good ones? All right, friends, that's what I got for you today. If you are interested in this topic, like I said, go ahead and check out the link in my bio for more information. You can check out that podcast, episode 20 of Ponder and Practice, or you can go to www.customizeyourcare.org/learn/BDNF. All right, friends, take care. Till next week.